I'm real excited to talk to my next guest on the Sports Card Shop guest line. I got to chat with him a little bit in person about a month ago at the National in Chicago. I've seen his YouTube productions as well, and he's a great guy. We're going to talk a lot about what he does, what he collects, and what's coming up the turnpike. And but without further ado, let's bring him on. Theo, Clemente Collector from YouTube. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, John. It's honestly an honor for the people who sat in my seat on the show. I'm honored you asked me to come on, and I enjoyed meeting you at the National.
Well, like I said, the tagline of the show, it's on the screen for those that are seeing this on video. The hobbies to people, right? All of us. I don't care what title you wear, how big of a title, how not big of a title. It might be. We all put our pants on, as far as I know, one leg at a time. We're all in this fraternity called the hobby. We all have the passion for the cards and players we collect, and you epitomize that. One thing you know, I love about you. One, I gravitate towards, genuine people, honest people, and I think you check those boxes, Theo, and
Oh, thank you.
that's why we're talking to today. So, I mean, let's get right into kind of it's the standard boring sort of podcast question, but and some people may know the answer because you've talked about it before. But for those that don't know you or listening for the first time to you, kind of how you got into the hobby, and then even past that, like Clemente, which is someone you collect and you're fond of.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a Western Pennsylvania boy. Family was all coal miners. Grew up in a patch town. All those kind of stereotypes that go with Western Pennsylvania. And I grew up, and my grandpa used to take me to the local flea market. That was the only place you could get singles. And my big passion was collecting Pittsburgh Pirates cards. And that was always something special to me that we did together. And one of the biggest cards that he bought me was a Barry Bonds rookie card, and I still have it to this day. But as I got older, I continued to just collect Pittsburgh Steelers cards, Penguins cards, Pirates cards, and that was during the junk wax era. I'm a '90s kid, and like a lot of us out there, I get to college and I stopped collecting, and then 2020 hit, and I hear that sports cards are coming back, and I wanted to be a part of it. So I started watching YouTube videos, and the videos that kept popping on my feed were break videos, and it was all football related. People were picking a team on eBay and getting them the breaks, and I started watching those, and then I started finally getting to collectors channels, and so this takes on for about 4 months. I'm just watching YouTube, not buying anything, and I go over to my parents' house for dinner, and I tell my parents I want to get my old cards and I want to look through them. I bet you I have a bunch of cards worth a bunch of money, which was 100% not true. I literally had nothing worth nothing. So, but I was just new back in, didn't really know much about the junk wax, like that. I lived through the junk wax era. It didn't, when you were living through it, you didn't realize there was, at least me as a kid, I didn't realize there was that much printed. So, so I tell my parents
See,
that I
I'm
want
old. I'm not to cut you off. I'm older than you, and I actually had a card store during the
to.
junk wax era, so I knew every bit of what was going on. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on the situation. But
Yeah,
I had to throw that in there. But go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So you were the guy taking advantage of us kids.
Not all the time. Not all the time.
um, so so I tell my dad what my plan is, that I'm going to go looking through my cards, and he drops a bombshell on me. He tells me he still has his cards from childhood, and that he actually had like everybody else, he had a whole bunch of cards. His mom threw away a majority of them, but he kept the 1961, 1960, and 1962 tops cards he had. And I was shocked. A lot of people don't really believe that part of the story because it sounds crazy, but my dad has like an army trunk that he just had from when he was in the military. He put them in there. he never brought up that he had these. I don't know if he didn't trust me or what, but he pulls out three old junk wax, or not junk wax. He pulled out three old Topps boxes. They were all dated 1962, original cardboard boxes, and he literally has them in stacks of like 50, and he has rubber bands wrapped around them, and the rubber bands are all dry rotted. So like the front card, like I was literally picking rubber band pieces off of it with my fingernail, and the back card also. so so we sit down at the kitchen table and we start unloading all these cards. I still don't know much about vintage. As a child, the furthest I went back was looking at 1986 cards. So I really didn't know exactly, did we hit a gold mine here? What am I looking at here? So we organized the cards, and he's got a complete 1962 top set, the wood grain background. If anybody out there's listening, so he's got the complete from card one all the way to the end, no duplicates. He's got about half the 1960 set and half the 1961 set, and once again, none of those cards are duplicates. So what I asked him is, I said, "Can I take these cards home and like look into these?" And he said, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." So I took them home and I started going deep diving on eBay, YouTube, and that's where I started learning about those eras of baseball cards. One of the first YouTubers I watched was actually Lou Rock TV. I was interested in what I had with the Clemente cards my dad had, and Lou Rock TV actually had a countdown of his favorite Clemente cards. So that's kind of where I started going down the rabbit hole of vintage on YouTube, and basically after that I went back to my dad and I told him, you have three Mickey Mantle cards. They're worth, and of course at the time you don't realize how harsh grading is. I'm like, this card's worth like 30,000. This card's worth like 10,000. Have no like literally, like that's one of the biggest pitfalls too of somebody who doesn't do enough research, is they assume it's either like a PSA 8 or PSA 10. They look at that pricing. So I'm like, we just hit the jackpot, and basically what he says to me is, he says, "Well, why don't you just sell all those cards? I'm not getting any younger." So I actually I literally went through the process of getting them all graded and selling them all. What my dad didn't know though is I never sold any of the Pirates cards, and so that process of me processing the cards, selling the cards, grading the cards, helped me do more research and find more love for vintage. And the biggest card he ended up having after I sold everything but the Pirates cards is he had a 1961 Mickey Mantle card, and PSA graded it as 6. We ended up it ended up going on eBay for about $1,000. So basically, let me show you first off. Let me show you. This is the 1960s Clemente card from his collection. It got an SGC4, and it's got great centering on it. I couldn't ask for.
I will say this: 1960, Theo, is one of my favorite years of cards. I don't know what it is. A lot of the sideways cards, the dual photo, just the designs. They're colorful. They pop. I love the 1960 top set. But go ahead.
Yeah. So I got three Clementes from his cards. I got the 60, 61, 62 from him. They graded a 4, a 4, and a 4.5. So like I said, they were in decent condition for being rubber banded together. So what happened next was I went to his house with a big stack of cash, and I really felt good about myself. I was a little bit sad about the cards that we let go, and especially the Mickey Mantle. The one card I really loved was the Mays Mickey Mantle 1962 card. I think it's the manager's dream card, right? And yeah, and that got a 4.5. And in the back of my head, I was like, dang, I wish I had that card after I learned more about like all the players and stuff like that. And I took the stack of cash to his house, and I felt really good about myself. He counts it out, and he's like, wow, you did better than I thought. And then he's like, I just take the money back. You were gonna have these cards anyways, just keep the money. And so I was, in one way, I was really thankful, obviously, but in another way, if I knew that was the plan in the first place, I probably would have waited with a different strategy of how I did
That's
everything.
funny.
Yeah.
Did and obviously it, like you said, you learned in the process, on the fly. Sometimes, Theo, that's the best way to learn is hands
Mhm.
on. Sometimes you take it on the chin occasionally, right? Trial and
Yeah.
error, but it's also how you learn what to do or what not to do. Did did it rekindle anything in your dad, as far as collecting, or not really at this stage of his life? He's probably just like, I'll let you enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, as as I um as I went down the road and got more Clemente cards, he's been along the way to see them all and look at them. But he's not. He doesn't pick up any card and go, "Oh, I remember this one." Like he will tell me stories though about going to Forbes Field and the players themselves, which is very meaningful to me because I want to hear those stories. So it's more of it's more passing down the memories he had of the players than the actual card collecting of it.
Yeah, and that's cool. And I'll segue a little bit into your video content. I see you bring your son on, screen as well, and there's something to be said about this hobby, right? That those it brings sometimes families together like that. You and your dad with his collection that he pulled out of the military trunk. You sharing, your hobby with your son, as well. I love those. Whether whatever family, really, father to son, mother to daughter, mother to son, grandparents to the grandkids, right? Because we forget how long cards have been around. Like you said, your dad never even said that he had these cards, yet they're sitting in the bottom of this trunk to be revealed and moved and graded and learning that process, right? I love those stories with family bonds and stuff like that. With your own son, is he taking an interest in the hobbies with your help?
Yeah. So also at my parents' house, I collected Pokemon cards in 1999. My friends went through that phase, and I was right there with them. And I'm sure your card shop sold Pokemon cards, and I had um I had the whole complete base set of the first set of Pokemon cards, and whenever I had my dad's collection, I also sent my big three Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur to PSA to get graded. And my son, before this all happened, my son was big into Pokemon video games, big into the. He started dabbling in the cards a little bit, but then when he saw those cards come back from PSA, I ended up getting a PSA 8 on my Charizard, which is amazing with it being a playing card. But when he saw those grades come back, it lit a fire under him for Pokemon collecting, and that's something that we spend a lot of time together, working on some of the sets. I buy him booster boxes. Christmas time comes, he gets a lot of cards, and we've actually graded some of his modern cards. But he's dabbling a little bit in baseball. I've been getting him on some videos talking about Clemente a little bit. I'm not the type of parent that I'm gonna push him on it. I'm gonna kind of suggest. And I'm happy that he's doing something in the hobby, even if it's Pokemon right now. And yeah, it's been a fun experience.
Yeah, no doubt. I love the stories, like that, Theo, and I may not know Pokemon like you said back in the day. We carried it, but
Yeah.
it's just another part of the hobby. It's just uh, a different hobby, but the same hobby. It's trading cards. It's just instead of sports. I'm gonna put you on the spot with one of these questions right here.
Okay.
Being a Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania guy, and Barry Bonds, and we know the whole, HGH stuff. Um, I don't like the users of that, but I mean, many will tell you, myself included, he was probably not probably, he was a Hall of Famer before that happened. What are your kind of thoughts when you think about Barry Bonds as someone who's, kind of lived through his era and seen him maybe even more up close than some others?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like how, the relationship between him and Pittsburgh kind of transpired when he left, and it seemed like there was some bad blood there. And it doesn't seem like he speaks fondly about his time here, even though we came really close to a championship. But as far as his legacy, I do really firmly feel him and Roger Clemens. I I don't know how you can argue. Barry Bonds, he the he, it's so hard for me to describe Barry Bonds to somebody who didn't get to see him, and I know that's not you. I'm just saying, like a kid nowadays, he was so dominant, and I would compare it to Shaquille O'Neal when they had Hack-a-Shaq, and then the kids still wouldn't understand that. So I literally have no example of how dominant he was, and I understand he was on steroids, but he was so dominant. They walked in like three times a baseball game. It was insane. Like
When
I
they
know we're
walked in,
talking about
with the bases loaded already, they would walk or run.
yeah,
You know how I describe them? Is almost like Tecmo Bo. You know, like with the Bo Jackson
yeah,
character. You can just he was like the baseball version of the Bo Jackson in Tecmo Bo, and
yep,
that's the sad part for me was he was on he was Trent he was going to be a Hall of Famer
yep,
without it, and I just wish that he didn't use. You know what I mean? I mean, we can say that about a lot of guys, but here you got a guy that was going to be a Hall of Famer without it, and because of that decision, and I think I wish he was more contrite about it. Like, hey, a lot of people were using it. I felt like I needed to compete.
yep.
Especially as I got older, uh, and just some sort of contrition that would go a long way, towards my feelings. But you look at some of the stats, Theo. Me and my son had this conversation a couple weeks back, and he pulled it up on Google. Like they're crazy. They're insane. Just like OPS and all these stats that are just like he leads in, and whoever's in second, it's not even they're not even in the same zip code, let alone
Hmm.
close. And you know, like my son says, like he should be. I know what he did, but this guy's a Hall of Famer before that, and that's the distinction that for it to happen, someone's going to have to say that. Like I know what this guy did, but if you just take the stats before he allegedly, like he's still in the Hall here, so
Yeah,
you know,
somebody, not to cut you off, but somebody actually
yeah,
showed me a stat today. They had Mookie Betts stats for his career so far. I'm trying to think of how many years Mookie's been playing so far. And they had Barry Bonds stats in the same period from rookie year to Mookie's. So it was like a 6 year period before Bonds
yeah,
was on steroids. Mookie Betts and Barry Bonds have identical. If you Google it, if you don't believe me, they have identical stats in home runs, RBIs. It's insane. It just gives you an example of if somebody's like, how good was he prior? Just look at that.
yeah, no doubt, and just I mean, tremendous defensively as well. It's just sad that I that he should be there, and because of all this, he's at least for now, he's on the outside looking in. I wanted to get your take, being a Pirates guy, kind of your assessment of that. We spoke of the National. Your kind of thoughts. Maybe what if you want to share a pickup or two, but what you thought it allegedly, it apparently broke the record. To me, it didn't feel. It felt busy. It didn't feel crowded. Um, but again, they added 200,000 square feet since the last time it was there, Theo. So maybe that's why it felt a little more airy. Your thoughts on what you saw and experienced there?
Yeah, so it was my first national. So I don't maybe have the perspective you have, because I don't have much to compare to. so
Well,
so my
I've only been to five, so I don't want to make it like
okay.
in double digits. But I was to a Chicago one prior. I think actually that the three of them I've been the three of the five I went to have all been in Chicago. So that's where I'm just kind of drawing the comparisons. But
Okay.
go ahead.
All right. So I felt like it, especially I think it was Thursday and Friday. I did feel like it was pretty crowded. It's kind of hard to maneuver. It wasn't impossible. You could politely wait your turn to go to a table, which was fine. I did feel that the heat issue, which everybody's talked about, was pretty bad at times, and I talked to a couple dealers, and they had to call the ambulance to take a couple people out because of the heat. So that was definitely an issue. I could literally bring my shirt out when I got back to my hotel. But as far as other things outside of that, I thought the dealers were ready to deal. There were a few that weren't, that just wanted to do the standard 10% off of everything, didn't want to talk about comps. I just walked away from those dealers. I went to dealers that were willing to deal, and there were a good amount of them. I thought I thought there was actually a bigger selection of vintage than I expected. I thought there was a lot more baseball than I expected. I know baseball's the biggest card, the biggest thing in the hobby, but I just expected to see more, football and basketball than I did, which was fine with me because I only collect baseball. But the other thing that I thought was needs improved is the layout. They had aisle signs not in the right places. You couldn't find table numbers. It was very hard to maneuver in there. I had a situation where John Mangini was coming over to help me look at a card, and it took him a half an hour to find where I was at, and it wasn't his fault. I was on the phone with him, and it was pretty. You could get turned around in there. It's not really laid out like gridded like you would think. So that was kind of my one thing, is I kind of wish it was a little bit easier to maneuver. I thought the corporate area was way too big. I know they pay the bills, but I just felt it was just way too big. And the other thing that I really wish, and I know that it's probably never going to happen, is I wish they had like three separate rooms. I wish if you sell 60% or more vintage, you're in this room. If you sell 60% more modern, you're in this room. And then anybody who's 50/50 is in this room. And I wish they had like a six table area for Pokemon, and they just put them over in the corner and you knew where it was at. I just feel like, being a customer, I feel like, you don't walk into Target and you don't have to go all around the store to find men's jeans. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of a little bit frustrating at times when you were trying to look for a certain item and you had to literally try to get around the whole show floor. But I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I had a great time. There were great people there. Like I said, the dealers were awesome. I enjoyed watching your show. You were on twice. My biggest complaint about your show was the area it was in. They had you in there with the breakers. It was very hard to hear even with microphones. I honestly like they should show the in my opinion, they should show the stage more respect. The stage should be in an area with just regular card tables so you can actually hear what the people on the stage are saying. But I think I said enough.
No, I'm going to back you up on some of this stuff, and it's great to have opinions, right? I mean, and they're not going to throw a perfect game. So in their defense,
Right.
a little bit. So let
Yep.
me kind of counterpoint. It's not really counterpoint because I'm going to agree on probably most of the Thursday was tremendously hot. I don't know what happened Thursday. I don't know if a
Yep.
compressor broke. I'm not an HVAC guy. I'm not going to pretend to be, but Thursday was unbearably hot, and I agree with you, and I could see. I remember saying like, I'm not even like walking fast, and I'm working up a pretty good lather here. Someone
Mhm.
that might be older or have some underlying conditions, COPD, emphysema. This could be trouble. Some, and maybe that's some of what you heard. What people had to have, emergency service tend to them. So I don't know what happened Thursday. Friday and Saturday seem to be better in the heat index category. So I don't
Yeah.
know if they fixed something. I'm not going to say it wasn't still hot, but Thursday was the like pinnacle of heat index where I made note of it. Like this, something's wrong. Like I don't know what's going on here, but it's like the temperature outside similar to yesterday, but it's way hotter in here today, and I don't know why. So I agree there. I'm sure it's been said before, Theo, but I
Yep.
like what you said with keeping maybe having like a vintage room, a more modern room, a non-sports or trading card games section, because those people, I like vintage, right? I can kind of know where I want to go first. I'm not saying
Right.
I won't look at the other rooms or the other
Exactly.
tables, but at least it gives me a better plan of attack. The one bad thing with Chicago's layout, and I think it became worse with the additional square footage, is it's not a rectangle like Atlantic City was.
Right.
You kind of knew, like, hey, the east side's the entrance, the west side has two bathrooms, or I'm just making
Yeah.
stuff, but you kind of navigated better, you knew the terrain. I got lost, and every time it's been in Chicago, I'm not even going to pick on this time. I'm not gonna. I remember saying to myself, I should have one of those lost kid tags, like, so if someone finds me, they know where to like bring me to. Because I was like, how do I get out of here? Or same thing what you said, even meeting somebody. Someone would text like, "Hey, let's meet here in 15 minutes." And you don't get there in time. It's like the amazing race. I felt like they should be filming me. Like, will he get there in time before the timer runs out? It
Yep.
was easy to get lost. It was easy sort of to get, I don't want to say disoriented, like you don't know where you are, but
Right.
uh like, hey, how do I get back to this table? I thought I remembered where it was, and now I'm looking for it, and it's like I have no clue. It's like it was. I get it. I get that. I do like the idea of having sort of segmented areas, vintage area. I think some dealers. I'm a dealer myself. I don't set up at the National. I think some dealers would give thumbs up on that, Theo, and then I
Yeah.
think you'd have a segment that would say, "I don't," even though I'm all vintage, I don't I want to be with everybody. Like, I don't want to be kind of segmented out, or you know. Um, and I get that too. I like your idea. It would be something if I was one of the powers that be. I'm sure they have discussions and meetings and correspondence with their long-standing dealers. It would be something I would throw out there, at least to get initial dealer. Hey, what do we think of this? Not maybe it won't happen next year, but it's something we're batting around right now. Just kind of feel the temperature in the room. They ask the dealers where they want the show to be, right? Throw that idea. What do you guys think? And ladies, what do you think of this kind of thought? If you're 100% vintage, we're gonna create as much as we can. I mean, that depending on the raffle and how that all goes, but as much as we can. Go ahead. Yeah, I know you want to make a.
Yeah, the point I was going to tell you is I interviewed a dealer on my show, and I asked him about that idea, and he said the only negative is he said basically what happens is we're tiered based off of how long we've been going to nationals. So guys who've been there for 30 years get first table pick, so on and so forth. He's like, I'm 3 years, so I'm down here. I said okay, I get it, but okay, if this is the vintage room, this guy's going to pick the first row of the vintage room. If this is the modern room, this guy's going to pick the first row of if he's modern. I said you could still get optimal table place. Just you might have to pick this room or this room. That's the only difference. I said I don't get that argument. I'm sorry. That's what I said to him.
You're honest, and you're right, and it can still go. The order of preference doesn't have to change. It's just
Right.
when you get in, if you're a vintage dealer, you're in the vintage room. You know what I mean. I
Exactly.
will tell you this: as a dealer myself, I carry vintage and modern. So I would be, I don't know if it's 50-50. It might be 60-40, 70-30 modern to vintage, because I keep
Yeah.
so much vintage for myself. The numbers would be higher if I didn't. Um, so, you know, for me, I'm like, where do I go? I'm sort of a hybrid. Even though I love vintage, I don't have a problem being in the vintage room, but someone might come in there and say, "Hey, this guy is 60% modern." Like, well, get out of here, guy. You know what I mean? So like, I think those dilemmas could pop up. But then you do a room where it's you're not just all vintage. It's just a little bit of an eclectic inventory, and I think you can do that. Well, not everyone's going to be thumbs up. That'll never happen with that many dealers at
No.
a show. I think you got to kind of go with what the majority, kind of like how they vote on where the next city where it's going to take place. You kind of go with the majority. You may vote for a city and it doesn't win, and you have a choice. You can set up there anyways, or you can bow out and lose your spot, right? And so, you know, and there'll be five guys waiting to take your spot if you want to bow out. So, I think you almost have to come at that approach. You want to share anything you picked up at your first national?
Yeah, sure. This here is there's only 11 of these on the PSA registry. SGC doesn't grade them, so there's none on SGC. It's my most rare Clemente item, and I love it. It's a 1961. It's a Manny's Land baseball. It's actually it was a souvenir shop in New York, and they produced these. You could kind of call them photos, and they had the like all the all stars. Like they have a Hank Aaron, Manny's Land, a Mickey Mantle, but they're like the Hank Aaron's like pop six. As far as how many they've graded, I understand there's ungraded out there, but they're beautiful. And this image of Clemente is not on anything else, so it's a unique image. And I was so thrilled to get this at the national.
Yeah, that's very cool. Like you said, you just don't see them that much. Now, was that an item you sort of targeted going in, or was that an item that shows up on your radar and you say, okay, now let's talk about this.
Yeah, so I kind of I've only been collecting Clemente for 2 years. So I mean, I know what I have and what I don't have. I don't need a checklist. I don't need to walk in with a checklist because my focus is on playing days Clemente. So it's pretty rare that I'll see something on YouTube or with a dealer that isn't something I know about. But so I knew about it. It's just like I said, I've only seen one of these sell on eBay once in the last 2 years. So that's one of those ones where when you see it, you hope that you can get a deal done because those are the type of things I feel you should buy at the national because I mean by all means buy what you love, but if you buy a Topps card that there's however many thousands and thousands and thousands, you could have bought that on eBay. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of my thought process going in is target items that I don't see on eBay. So
Yeah, I like that advice, like you said. Now I'm guilty of doing both. I fall on
yeah,
both sides of the aisle. But yeah, it's a great. You're going to see stuff at the national, as you just pointed out, Theo, that you're just not always going to see. They just don't. There's just not a ton of them. That's it. It's simple as that. And with that many people at the national, that's where you're going to find it, rather than on always on an auction platform and that sort of thing. And it's a great opportunity, right? You'll remember that this piece now. I got that in 2023 in Chicago, and it's just an incredible, rare Clemente that not a lot of people have in their collection, including Clemente collectors themselves. What's your approach to Clemente? You mentioned like you only do plain day versions. Are you trying to get one of everything? Will you do duplicates? What's your approach? Like if you have something, you're like, hey, I don't want another one, or are there certain ones like I really fond of that? I got it, but I want another one, or more than
yeah.
another one.
Yeah, so my approach all along is I don't collect duplicates. I don't tend to fall in love with one certain Clemente card and buy five of them because I couldn't pass it up. I tend to kind of get tunnel vision of okay, I got that off my list. I'm happy with it. I still am yet to upgrade one of my Clemente cards, which is kind of unreal. But my strategy was first to collect all the base cards and then to start doing I hate to use a different word, but oddball cards, serial cards, just different cards that weren't just produced by Topps. This wasn't the only thing I picked up at the national. I also picked up the 1964 top stand-up card of Clemente. I didn't have that yet. And that, like I said, that's not as rare as something like this, but it was something that I really wanted. And because my budget was bigger at the National than a normal day to day at my house, I knew I kind of had to go for it there, because my wife would have killed me if I would have bought it at home. So
It's go big. It was go big or go home. So
exactly.
you,
So
you
um, yeah. So in the last 2 years, I have an Excel sheet. I keep track of everything. I'm up to 95 playing days, Clemente. Individual items. None of them are duplicates, and it's been a lot of fun. I never thought I would reach 95, so it's
yeah.
crazy.
No, that's awesome. One other thing on your approach with your Clementes, do you tend to buy them already graded, or do you like taking a shot, buying some raw ones, and then having them graded yourself? And so, what's your approach on that level?
Yeah, so that's a great question. You could probably tell from behind me, and I know we're on a podcast too. Is I'm an SGC truther. They did me right during the pandemic. I love how the tuxedo looks. So my goal is that my whole collection is in SGC slabs. Obviously, this Manny's Land is the exception because they don't grade it yet. But my approach has been that items under $50 I tend to buy ungraded, and items over $50 I tend to try to buy graded. There's been exceptions. The stand-up card I bought at the National, he had it priced for $500. It was near mint condition. I ended up negotiating down to 430. I have never ever ever went over $150 on a non-graded item in my life. So it scared the crap out of me, to buy that. It's actually at SGC right now, and hopefully, when this goes up, there'll be an SGC reveal with the card. But I'm still worried about it because I personally, I don't like taking that risk. I would rather the dealer take the risk of getting the card graded, and then me knowing that it's authentic and it's this grade, than me taking that risk. So that's kind of my opinion on it.
Yeah, I get that. I'm similar like that. Sometimes it's fun though to fly by the seat of your pants as well, especially when at the end of the day the outcome is actually a good one, right? Get you a little excited and waiting to see what they comes back as and that sort of thing. I don't want to jinx you or anything like that. Those are great cards, the 64 stand ups. They're generally not mess with too much. I think without seeing it, I think you're going to be okay. You looked it over, and yeah, I know you mentioned the term near mint. If you're saying that, I'll take stock, and I think you. I don't know what grade you get, but I don't think you'll have to worry about anything coming back kind of
Yeah,
fuzzy or weird like that.
yeah. I mean, it gives me confidence that I held it in my hand and looked it over, because I've only been to three, counting the National. I've only been to three card shows, so I've bought 95% of my collection on eBay. So yeah, like you're saying, it did give me that confidence of actually looking at it, looking at the size of it, looking at it at different lighting. It did give me that confidence. I don't think I would have ever bought that card on eBay because I could never, hold it in my hand to look at it. So
I've preached on this show, Theo, right? It's great to buy cards online. I do it. I'm not but there's
yeah.
there's nothing that beats an in-person transaction.
Mhm.
And I'm not even just talking about holding or looking at the card, but I'm talking about the whole process
Mhm.
of talking to the dealer, negotiating that, and then if you get a deal done, that feeling like, hey, I think we both are okay here. Like I got a good deal, the dealer is going to be all right, and even the conversations that come of, and you make friends even that way, and then you've established something and you can come back. Maybe next year in Cleveland, you go to the same dealer that you bought a Clemente from and
Yep.
say, "Hey, I was the guy that bought this Clemente last year," and you find another one you may need. Now you have some sort of, credential. Not that you need one, but you
No.
have some sort of rapport to maybe get the next deal done. Maybe the dealer will, keep that in mind. Hey, this I do that as a dealer. Like if someone's bought from me before and I know
Yep.
that, they're more apt to get a better deal. It's just you reward sort of loyalty that way. And I think That's what you get at shows rather than in online, and you get again. Yeah, it's the one of the biggest thing, right? Seeing the card in person, right? Anyone can put a scan online and say, "Hey, here's for sale," and that doesn't mean you're getting that card potentially. And we hear
Yep.
stories, unfortunately, like that. So nothing can replace an in-person transaction to me, whether it's selling or buying. So that's what card show, not just the national, but that's what card shows give us those opportunities. I know you're starting a new channel. I believe with Pino Man and James Perez, Elite Hunters. I want to tell everybody what this entails, what it's going to be, and what the it's going to be about.
Sure. And then the fourth member is John. His channel is called 3D 80s Kid, and it's four of us. So our channel is actually the number four collectors. So it kind of has two meanings there. It's four collectors, and it's FOR four collectors. So our actual handle name is the number four collectors, and then FOR collectors. And the channel was really put together because us four we were all doing like live streams on our own, and we were doing interview shows similar to yours on our own sometimes, and and we kind of felt like it was kind of random content. There was no schedule. There was no like there was no threat. There's no tie between this week we have this one, this month we have this one. So we really wanted to make more. I guess you would call it more of a professional type of an experience for somebody on YouTube. And we said, why don't we band together, and why don't we have a live stream every Sunday at 9 o'clock Eastern, and one of us four will run that live stream, and then why don't we have pre-recorded weekly shows with other collectors? So some of the stuff we're gonna have a monthly show where we call out our favorite YouTube videos from the month and show clips from them. Like, so that's a way to promote the community through the channel. Like I said, I'm going to be doing some one-on-one interviews with some other collectors to promote them, and Pepino Man's actually starting one where it's called Ask Pepino Anything, so the community can write in questions of Pepino, and he can call them out and answer their questions. So those are some of the ideas that we've come up
That
with so
might get
far.
a little scary. I'm not just. You might want to have a disclaimer at the beginning of that one, but go.
No, I totally agree. That's what's so cool about this is we're all a little bit different, and we all collect a little bit different. And that was one thing that we were really excited about is having a little bit of a different flavor for everybody. My hope is that it in 6 months from now, it's bigger than any of our four channels combined. And if there's a small channel out there that wants to do a live stream that just doesn't have the capabilities, doesn't have the StreamYard set up, they reach out to us. We set them up, and we let them broadcast on our channel to get that notoriety. So we really want to make it a more of a community type channel. We're just trying to we're still pretty new, but that's what we want to work up to.
Yeah, and hearing you talk about it, man, I can tell you're excited, you're gung ho, and the word that you said, right? The community. You want to highlight other, talk. That's not easy for people to do. Some people are not good at that. Let me just put it that way. Either they're not good at it, Theo, or they don't want to do it. Let's speak plain English here, right?
Yeah,
Some
right.
people don't like to shine light on somebody else. Let's put it that way. Or it may not even be that they don't like to, maybe they're not comfortable. There's all sorts of different reasons, right? I tried to do that, with this show, and that's why it became a guest show every week. It didn't start out like that, but I'm like, I don't want it to just be me every week. That's not like I don't want that. I'm sure other people don't want that. And that's where we have a guest now every week. Hobby Hotline is a show where we do with a bunch of different content creators and different ones every week. So you're not seeing always the same faces. That's the community aspect, right? So whenever I hear another content creator talk about sort of promoting other people or pointing people, hey, check this person's content out. We find it's pretty interesting. They don't have a big following yet, but we think you'll like it if you check it out. That says a lot about you. and the people that do that. You know what I mean? That they're willing to really sort of, you know, give someone else some shine. I like to say, and I don't think we see enough of that. I think we could get more, but the fact that you're doing that with this new channel, like you said, even the name itself is geared towards letting people know that this is everybody. This is for everybody. I think
Yeah.
it speaks to what you guys are doing. I look forward to checking it out and maybe even being part of it at some point
Yeah.
or another. Maybe if you like a video, we're not known. Sportscar Nation, we're getting a little bit better, but we're known more on the audio side for sure. But it's great. You got some great people involved, and then you got a little bit of a wild card in Pepino Man, but that'll be fun in its own right as well too, right? Like you said, you've got four different personalities, four different approaches, and four different viewpoints, plus the people you highlight and all that good stuff. So when we're recording this before it's obviously going to be released for audio. When is that? Just so people know, when can they start looking for that?
For the For Collector channel.
Yeah.
It actually our first video came out today, and
Okay.
well, okay, today's so the end of August we started up here, and we're actually doing an 8-hour marathon this weekend. It'd be August 27th. It's the most similar thing I could compare it to is Hobby Palooza, but we're having eight
Yeah.
1-hour episodes with 8 different hosts. And it's right before football season, so everybody should be kind of available, getting ready to go back to school. And I know people are going to be listening to this and it's already come out, but if you didn't get a chance to catch it live, obviously the replays will be on the For Collector channel. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of great guys coming on that I don't even want to say names because I'll leave somebody out, but we have a lot of great content.
Yeah, no doubt. And so anyone listening to this interview, it's out. Its stuff is on the channel. Check it out. Good luck. I don't think you need it, but I wish you good luck. Give that out again, and anything else, like your own stuff as well.
Sure.
Theo, I want you to promote yourself as well as that channel.
Sure, thank you. So my individual channel is called Clemente Collector. Just look up Clemente Collector on YouTube, and you can find my channel. I'll still be making content on my own channel. It'll be more of my individual content. SGC reveals. Sometimes I do individual on Clemente pickups, things like that. So I'll still have my regular channel, and then once again our collaborative channel is called at For Collectors, and like you were saying, I really appreciate what you said though, but I went to the National, and it was one of my favorite vacations I've ever been on. Period. And you heard me. I said a lot of negatives there, which I don't want to make it seem like it was a negative experience because it was so great. There were so many great friends I've made from YouTube, and I love doing things like this. I love getting to know people better and starting to text people, and not just the YouTube relationship, also being able to call them on the phone and celebrate pickups and things like that. So it's just been a lot of fun. It's been I just hit my 1 year anniversary. You could never told me that this is how many friends I would have after 1 year. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy. And going back to the national stuff, that's just opinion. I've said the same thing, and that doesn't mean we didn't have fun and we're not going again. I mean, God willing, I plan on going to
Yep.
everyone I
Yep.
can get to. So we're just critiquing the. It's like when you go to the restaurant, you might enjoy the meal, maybe something else wasn't the greatest. Like, but it doesn't mean we're not going back. It just means this happened, this happened. Let's talk about. That's how we get better, right? Is
Exactly.
talking about things we can improve upon, whether it's the national, our own content, whatever it might be. Nothing's perfect, so there's always room for improvement. And I didn't take it that way from knowing you a little bit. And I think most people get it and wouldn't be taking it that way as well. Well, Theo, I appreciate you making some time, sharing some of your pickups, some of your thoughts. The new look forward to the content on the new channel. Urge everyone else to check it out and continued success, man. I'll be keeping in touch, and we'll have to have you back on sooner rather than later.
Thank you so much for having me, John. It's great getting to know you, and I feel like I have another friend now out here, and
No
it's really
doubt,
cool.
no
I
doubt. I
look
feel
forward to
this.
more conversations, and you're a Steeler fan like I am, and I really think we're gonna have a great season this year. So hopefully, maybe during some of the great moments and some of the bad moments, we can text each other. So
Yeah, I definitely. Well, let's keep in touch, and
okay,
we either celebrate together or we'll commiserate together. Either way, let's hope it's celebrate more
yep,
than commiserate. But I'm a huge Steeler guy, as you know, and so always love talking Steeler football, picking on Matt Canada, who I'm not a huge fan of. But we could do a whole nother show there.
yeah,
I'm not on I'm not on my Canada's Christmas card list for obvious reasons. But listen, I'm hoping I'm singing his praises here soon. I don't root against my own team, obviously. I'm just
right.
basing it off of 2 years. But let's hey, hopefully year three is the charm for him and his offense. Preseason, I know by the time this airs, we'll be into the regular season, but preseason things look pretty good. But I don't really get excited till the games count in the real standings. So, but yeah, we'll definitely be talking we'll be talking sports cards and Steeler football
Yeah,
just the same, and I look forward to it. Thanks,
awesome.
thanks, Theo.
Thank you, John.